Hello, 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 everyone. It's Dr. Tamara Beckford, and welcome to the Dr. Tamara Beckford Show. Today, we have an esteemed guest, and I cannot wait for you to hear his story. We're talking about burnout, we're talking about privilege, and we're talking about fighting for freedom. Alrighty, so this wonderful guest is a graduate of the University of Michigan Medical School. He is a neuroradiologist of 36 years of experience. He did his training at Brown and Yale. He is also an independent contractor. He's been doing that since 2018, providing services for professionals and imaging centers. He's an author and a 4 award-winning author of his book, Not a Real Enemy, the true story of a Hungarian Jewish man's fight for freedom. This is a family saga. We're going to hear all about the forgotten history of nearly 500,000 Hungarian Jews who were deported and killed during the Holocaust. This is a tale of daring escapes. It's a tale of terrifying oppression, and it's a tale of tragedy and triumph. Who am I talking about? The one and only Dr. Robert what?
Wow, what an introduction. Wow,
How are you?
I'm good. I'm well, thank you, and thank you for having me. I appreciate that very kind introduction. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for jumping on the show. Okay, so I want us to get a background of who you are. For those who are listening and those who are watching, tell us what made you decide to do medicine in the first place?
I have absolutely no idea. No, I always liked sciences and medicine since probably ninth grade. I wasn't crazy about science in seventh and eighth grade back then. I don't maybe it's the way it was taught. But once I hit ninth grade biology and learning how the cell worked and the human anatomy and physiology, I was hooked.
Mhm.
Plus, my dad was a doctor, so he was an OB/GYN, and he delivered 10,000 babies in the Detroit area. And literally, that's the punchline after everything we're going to talk about. Just think about it. And he went on to deliver 10,000 babies in the Detroit area. Never had burnout, never had PTSD. A real role model, real hero. And so I just, there was nothing else I wanted to do. Of course, as kids, you wanted to be Batman or, wide receiver for the Lions or point guard for the Pistons or a sports announcer or, and at my age now, ultimately owning a sports team, that kind of thing. Those things, but the reality was, and even medical school is hard enough to get into, as you know. I mean, the whole getting a residency, getting a job in a desirable place, all of that is really, really tough. So, but since ninth grade, I just, I love medicine. I loved what my dad did. I was crazy about OB/GYN, but I did like the medical part. So I followed in his footsteps. And my dad's father was a doctor too. He was a dentist. Through World War I. We could talk about a little bit of that later. But anyway, I was there with my role. And my mom was into medicine too. She was only 13 months away from graduating medical school in Hungary in 1906 when they escaped after the Hungarian Revolution. My dad's fourth escape, first and only escape, but still pretty daring. And they got the heck out of there after 2 wars and countless persecution and on and on. And then college was just kind of confirmed that biology, chemistry. I mean, organic chemistry, it's a little bit painful, but I got through it. And,
Yeah,
yeah, we always had that goal in mind. We had that light at the end of the tunnel.
absolutely.
So that's kind of why I went into it. Radiology.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. What made you decide to do radiology? Because your dad's OB, what pulled you away from OB?
Process of elimination. I wasn't crazy about OB. It just wasn't for me. Pediatrics and, internal medicine. Michigan, it was tough. I learned a lot. It was a great learning experience, but it was tough. Very competitive too. I mean, it was top 10 medical school when I was there, and tough to do the residencies you wanted. Tough to get into the ophthalmology was a choice of mine back in the day. I want to be ear, nose, and throat, orthopedics, ophthalmology, or radiology. Those were the biggies. So I chose radiology in the end. I loved anatomy from day one. I loved theology, and radiology kind of covered all of that. So,
Okay. So why did we tap directly to neuro? So we have general radiologists. For those who aren't aware, you have a radiologist where from the top to the bottom, but then you zoned in on neuroradiology. What pulled you to that?
well, that was I'm going to go back to medical school with that. We had a class called Neural and Behavioral Sciences, University of Michigan. So it combined first the neuroanatomy, neurophysiology, the medical part of it, psychiatry, neurology. So That was a 2-year course. That was all 4 semesters of class was neuroscience, but I really love the neuroanatomy. I love the pathways, the idea of it, and, it was me. I got honors in the class, one of the few classes I got honors in, but, proud to say I got honors. Very, very hard work, but that was sort of my guide, and so,
Mm.
if I was gonna get into ophthalmology, I would have definitely been a neuro-ophthalmologist if I could have gone in that. I love that
Mhm.
pathway. That's something I was really considering, but neuroradiology has worked well for me. That
Mhm.
training year at Yale, doing the fellowship was a great year. I
Mhm.
learned a lot, great people. And in spite of what you might hear about the New Haven community, it was a great area. And this way actually to stay on and do neurointerventional. But by this point, I'm 30. I've been an indentured servant, as you know, in many years. There was time to go out and make a living. And neurointerventional was a little scary to me.
Yeah.
Adventure in itself, but you're going to give people strokes. You're going to put people in a box, and it just wasn't for me. So I was happy with my neurodiagnostic, and believe me, I did plenty of interventional on the fly,
Mhm.
different jobs. They wanted, if you can use your hands to get into the cerebral vascularity, then you can use them to do abscess drainages and pulmonaries and the declottings and all the other tubes and lines they used to put into people. So, as you well know, as me,
I ended up doing it.
the guy doing it, but it helps get you employment and, in
Mhm.
addition to reading MRIs, which, neuro MRI to me was, my favorite part.
Oh.
That kind of stuck. Brain, spine, head and neck.
Mhm.
Not doing much of it now. I'm very part-time now, ultrasound and X-ray mostly from home, like you said,
Mhm.
but that brought me back to the book too, back in 2018. So
Mhm.
long, and like you said, 36 years.
Yeah.
Had burnout many years ago. I started working part-time at age
Mhm.
43, and then
Okay.
curtail that burnout. That helped, I moved on
Mhm.
to outpatient work, Monday through Friday, better hours. Work
Mhm.
home. We talk about telemedicine.
Yeah.
I just invented the teleradiology. We've been doing that for over 30 years for a call and
Ab
institution to another, all that kind of thing. It's ER clinics has picked that up too, of course, as
Mhm.
oh, especially I'm sure you can attest to that.
Absolutely. So, people wonder what the life is like as a radiologist, because you mentioned before we even get into the burnout portion, we'll be talking about the book. But what was your life like um as a radiologist, like the day to day? Because people like right now they're looking, and I'm pretty sure that all of our physician colleagues looking at this video is looking and said, okay, yeah, he's a radiologist. Do you see? He's like, look in the background. It's dark. The lights are out. He's a radiologist.
Or the lot of lonely hours. The lot of lonely hours, and those like downtime, not downtime, like not having
But yeah.
the last job, second to last job before I finally got out of all that, which I went kind of back to inpatient and
Mhm.
hospital work. I was kind of forced to for a while, but still part time. But some of these jobs didn't feel like part time. I mean,
Mhm.
second to last job, we were reading up to 200 cases a day, and that
Oh,
was
wow.
4 or 5 radiologists strong out of 3 or 4 medical centers and offices. It was too much. The peak of my earnings and the peak of my career, I'd say, as far as satisfaction, mixed with being able to be a jack of all trades, with when I was in Flint, Michigan. The best 9 years of my life. Lived in suburban Michigan, but the radiology part was busy. We had triple call, so like on weekends we would take MRI call for a week, and we would take angio interventional call for a week. During the weekdays, not so busy necessarily, but the weekends are brutal.
Oh.
Was reading X-rays, all the ER, the ICU, the CT scans, ultrasound, everything. And of course, we do interventional cases, sometimes 2, 3, 4. You're rushing, you're hustling, because then you have to go to the MRI center and spend the rest of the day there covering the inpatients and reading as many cases as you can. We didn't cases on the weekend. You'd walk in Monday with a pile of MRIs. This is back when they had the hard, twice as tall as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I mean, you're literally standing looking at your pile. Now it's all electronic, thank God. So we're not,
Mhm.
putting the cases up and putting cases back and then begging people to hang cases and prior studies, even more so.
Sure.
But it was tough. I mean, it was a recipe for burnout. I mean, all I did was work, work, work.
Mhm.
Interruptions after interruptions. And you just you look forward. Monday was your Friday. You look forward to that Monday or just getting off a call.
Right.
Between the day to day, as you got better at a certain job, as you got more acclimated and you knew the ins and outs, and that's not, I don't like using the word shortcut because shortcut sounds like you're cheating the patient or you're you're cheating your reading. But there are ways to make
Making
you
people a
more
little bit more efficient.
efficient. So
Yeah.
burnout was definitely a part of it. And then, my first job, we had administrative issues, so kind of got let go. I was out really pissed, but in the end, they did me a favor, got me out of Massachusetts to Michigan.
Mhm.
I would have stayed, if it weren't for my wife, I would have stayed in Michigan probably the rest of my life. But
Mhm.
family was still back in Massachusetts, so we went back there. And at the same time, that's when I went to part time many years ago. So uh, a little combination of everything. So
Mm.
time stint went away. That I was reading out of Michigan. They cut my umbilical cord, as they call it. Back to get a real job.
Mhm.
Was at Roger Williams in Rhode Island in Providence, a small hospital, and I worked 2 days a week. That was perfect. Workload was reasonable. You can or for lunch, you could make a phone call, you could breathe, and
Mhm.
some days, and radiologists, some docs think radiology is a cushy job, or I'm sitting here reading cases, having a Bloody Mary,
No.
or whatever, and it just isn't like that. I mean,
No, not at all. Especially now with the amount of imaging, like everyone comes in with a belly pain wants imaging. So I'm
it's
pretty sure it's exponentially worse than it was.
amazing. No, I was in the ER. I've had my own personal health issues the last couple of months, and we could talk about that too. I mean, what a different perspective on life that's given me. But in the
Mhm.
ER, as you know, pulmonary embolism workups are very common, and they did one on me, even though they never checked my
The blue
what's
dreamer.
the marker that they use?
The blue dreamer.
Elevated. What is it? Yeah,
The blue
elevated T
dreamer.
primer. So usually that's what we would get, and
Mhm.
on the other end, but they weren't hard to read. Most of them were normal, but and as was mine. Yeah, no, straight to imaging, chest X-ray, CTA, abdominal CT, and recomplain. Yeah, well, did they even examine the patient and this and that? And then I look in an ER and I say, "Who's got time to this that with whole would examine a patient to examine a patient?" So you guys have your own protocol too, just to get you through the day. I can't imagine. So
Yeah, absolutely. Alrighty, so you're there and you're doing all of this. And then you get this inkling, like you said, that there's this family story that hasn't been passed down orally to you and then for a while. So when did the drive come for you to say, you know what? I want to put this story onto paper so that it can be a living legend of my family. Like, were you getting the oral version of it for a while and then you decide to, okay, I want to put the story on paper? Tell us about that.
such a great question. My mom and dad were both Holocaust educators all their lives. They
Mhm.
kind of were Holocaust educators light the first half of my life because I was focused on work and education and family and all that. But my mom and dad did talk about it with their friends, fellow survivors, Americans, Hungarians. They were friends with people all over the world.
Mhm.
Bless them. They were very tolerant people.
Mhm.
Liked to educate about tolerance and how bad the Holocaust was. And not only
Mhm.
that, the communists and how bad the Russians were in Hungary and in other countries, and being Jewish was inherently a disadvantage as well, the endless persecution. So they talked about it. They didn't really expect me to. I mean, I wasn't a Holocaust educator then, but probably I read my mom's manuscript once.
Mhm.
Now it's on a typewritten piece of paper or multiple pieces of paper. But the history, real quick, is in the '70s. My mom and dad wrote his autobiography, and they literally wrote the stories as though they had happened the previous days and the previous day. And the stories were so sharp. My parents were very sharp people, interested in other things too, history and culture and arts and travel, education. But with regard to this, they were sharp. The smells, the fear that you could feel, the way the table was set, the music, everything was so well detailed and so well documented. So this is in the '70s, and they went from paper and pencil to typewriter to computer to a disc. Well, so I read it once, didn't think much of it. I did remember his first escape out of the four. That kind of stood out. And whenever we had a family argument, my dad would bring up Hungary and how badly the people were treated and how spoiled us Americans were. And he would always use that. And so that kind of came up as his ace in the hole. But otherwise, not much until the last, 10 or 15 years, life or my mom's life. My dad passed away in '97, unfortunately, my mom in 2016. And now the story is on a disc, and a historian friend in Michigan hands me the disc and says, "You got to look at this. You got to read it." So Still didn't think much of it. Took care of my mom's affairs. Retired for a year, and then went back for retiring in 2018 and doing what I am now, still out of Michigan with a friend, former partner. And that brought me back to the book. That brought me to the disc. So we've got two screens as a radiologist. The left screen was the queue, the patient queue, and the right screen are the images.
Mhm.
In cases, I had my dad's autobiography on the left and my dictating his biography, literally word for word, except third person instead of first. And then, and there it was. The book was turned from an autobiography to a biography. We queried agents and publishers. We struck out badly. Then I got some beta readers, and they helped me. One of them, he loved the book, and she said, "You've got to meet this Janice Harper, who's my co-author." She took a year and redid the book and made it more of a novel, more of a at a point A to point B to C, parallel stories, converging stories, conversations, letters to and from home. Really enlightened the book and livened up the people that. So it was not just believable, but also you could put yourself in their place, including my father's place. People
Mhm.
that the book, myself included, said, "Oh my God, I could just see myself in this situation, and how the hell would I survive that? How would I get through that time and even afterwards?" So it just it drew me. I mean, it called me, it summoned me, like Superman's kryptonite. I mean, kind of corny comparison, but that's kind of what it did. So. Yeah, so Janice helped out, and then we queried agents and publishers. She carefully vetted out with the proposal package, and we got Amsterdam publishers last minute, shoestring catch, bottom of the night. This is all they do is Holocaust and related. So they're out of Amsterdam, Netherlands, and thank you, Liesbeth, for that. So here we are. It was a 6-year process. The last two out. I'm still marketing as much as I can. I try
Mhm.
too pushy and because you can get burnout out of this too, right? Anything that you do,
With power.
yeah, you can get complete burnout. Another
Mhm.
lesson I have for people is if you get tired of your career, if you get tired of your work, if you get tired of your specialty, change vectors, do something else. Write a book, write a poem, write an opera,
Your goal.
to the community, go volunteer somewhere, spend more time with the family, travel if you can, that kind of thing. So it's another lesson I talk about with this book because if I can do it, anybody can. 6 years ago, if you knew me, you'd say this guy would never be writing a book.
Let's see.
And my
Right. We'll say Rob Wolf, the author, is not.
way, I mean, we wrote in, it's probably remember medical school and residency
Okay. Patient with rent with
papers to get through the residency or whatever it was, and a lot of that was gratifying. But I just
Mhm.
what Gordon Zay, the chief of neuroradiology at Yale, he's very part time now. He was chief for many years. Asked him how many papers had you written in your career? 150. Believe that. And these guys like remember Sabiston and Schwartz and those big fat textbooks. I'm like, who's got that time and who's got the wherewithal to do it? And not
Mhm.
all electronic. I mean, I wish we had all that electronic stuff when we were students and residents, but there it is. I mean, so not me or a writer, but I guess now I'm a writer. So
You are. You're an author. Now, here's the thing. When you read the story, like, the handwritten version, you have that version of yourself, that age range and so on. Life is happening. You have that version. Then you have the version of you that looks at it years later, right? Where you're older, you're wiser, and maybe even more cognizant of like, whoa, what really my parents went through. How would you say those people differ when you look at the story from that perspective? Like, what drew you, and what comparison would you make to the person who looked at it years before and didn't even realize how powerful that was?
it's a great, unique question. I guess when we're younger,
Mhm.
we're a little more narcissistic. We're a little more selfish. We're a little more, we're less introspective.
Mhm.
All of that. And so when I read it the first time, I mean, I didn't, and I probably rush read it too. I probably just flew through it. So that, to be fair, but the second time, I was slowing down a little bit. I was,
Mhm.
mom was gone, a different outlook on life, a few extra minutes to actually absorb this.
Mhm.
And I realized that there's more to life than food and shelter and clothing, more to life in career and money, way more. And I've felt like that for many years. But this book, the story really accentuated that. And when I
Mhm.
read it, I said, miracle after miracle. escape after escape. I mean, talk about a cat with 9 lives. My dad had 20.
No.
Just not just the escapes, but also cloak and dagger stories, arguing with armed Russian soldier, hiding in places you'd never expect, casinos and assisted living facilities and hat boxes and just day to day, no light at the end of the tunnel. Even when you
Mhm.
escaped or you ran, you were starving. You didn't know where your next meal was coming from. You didn't know where you're going to be sleeping at night. So now you're an escapee. Well, where are you going to go? You can't go to a war torn area. You can't go to where there are a bunch of Nazis running around because they'll nail you after they even well, there's your suspect. Even if you take the stupid yellow star off or the stupid yellow gold band that the slave laborers like my dad had to wear, and where are you going to go? So it made me think a lot more and
Mhm.
made me appreciate what we have a lot more. And I just said these stories are so amazing. I can't let them sit on a disk. I can't let them sit on a computer. They need to be shared. They're timeless stories. And people might say, well, who cares what happened 60, 80, 100 years ago, even 1,000 years ago? Well, I do. Because what's going on now is the same damn thing. It's the same thing. Ukraine, in a way, the Jewish mention in the beginning of the Ukraine war was about anti-Semitism, and Putin was complaining about Ukraine being anti-Semitic. Maybe that's true. But what do the Soviets care about anti-Semitism? It just didn't sit right with me. And then obviously what's going on in Israel, and and then these deniers. I mean, if you deny the Holocaust, then come see me, and I'll do a lecture at your institution happily. That's what I'm doing. Is many of these, and not just me, the multiple Amsterdam publisher authors, they all have great stories, great
Mhm.
Bible stories and otherwise. And we're just trying to promote tolerance, stop anti-Semitism and hatred and racism in general. And this is the way I do it in my own my corner here. So it was very motivating. I had different realizations of what's important in life and what's not as important, and something that was just worth sharing.
Love it. Now, here's my question. When you now look back at your dad, having read his story and truly absorbing it, how do you look back at your dad's life here in the US?
Another great question. You take for granted. And so we lived in the Detroit area. So he would take me and my pals to Tigers games and Red Wings games and all the sports events, the circus, and tough neighborhoods in Detroit. I mean, not the best neighborhoods in the world, but my dad was fearless. And I'm thinking, well, it's only about 5'6", 5'7". He doesn't carry a gun or a knife. And I realized afterwards that there's nothing short of shooting him in cold blood, nobody's going to treat him worse than what the treatment they had back in
Mhm.
the old country. So I think he had some of that. No PTSD or burnout in him, which was very impressive.
Mhm.
And the word today I would use for my dad is he was a badass. And I just didn't realize. But no knives, no guns. Just he knew how to argue. He knew how to, and he was a man of integrity. Don't get me wrong.
Mhm.
White lies when he had to, because it was that or die. I mean, or that or be punished or be in prison. So basically a man of integrity, but also a man of survival.
Mhm.
And I can't believe how he didn't have PTSD. I can't believe how he just moved on and work and work and work. And that's all he ever wanted to do, was be able to practice Judaism, practice medicine, and ultimately practice in a free country. And he finally got all of it, but it took a while because
Right.
the latter, well, even to practice medicine was tough. After World War II, he had a quota for Jewish students, 10% at the most. And the Hungary was so short of doctors after World War II. So my dad he was smart. He was one of the smartest guys in the country, I'd guess. But it was hard to get in as a Jewish person. But he ran into somebody who knew a dean of the medical school, put in a good word for him, and there you go. So the luck on this guy, it's just Jersey Tony Soprano, the luck on this guy, yeah, a badass who had luck. He had the
Mhm.
ear of God on the hand of God on his side, and a very loving man. And if you knew him, if you knew how jovial and jolly he was, you'd say he would never have gone through all the
On brother.
It's just unbelievable.
So now the 10,000 deliveries, tell us about that. When he got his 10,000.
Or you're not going to ask me for the paperwork because
No, but what did he tell? Did he make the announcement? How did you find out about the 10,000
my
deliveries?
kid told me, I've confirmed it with I mean, the hospital records. We're talking about 60s and 70s. So,
Right.
and that probably doesn't include babies he delivered in Hungary and in
Mhm.
Boston, where he had to redo his residency, by the way, another 4 years of extra time out of his life. But yeah, and he loved delivering babies, said sometimes two or three in the middle of the night. He only had one partner when he first started in suburban Detroit, but by the time he retired, there were four partners, so they were busy practice. He also loved doing surgery, and when I was in high school, he got special permission from a patient for me to go in and watch him do a hysterectomy, which was really cool.
Mhm.
That was as a kid, and his technique it was impeccable. It was just so impressive, and how much he loved it. And also when he walked into the hospital, the ER, whatever, everybody said hi to him. The janitor, the nurses, the
Mhm.
secretary, the patients. So cool to see that the way you can mix science and medicine and also be humanistic. So
Absolutely.
that I mean, I hope I didn't get off the subject, but I'm
This is
trying
what I wanted. That's what I was asking.
wide latitude of answers, but no, I
Mhm.
think which was cool. And what was the question again?
We're gonna about the 10,000 for
Over 10,000 babies.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's how we got to the 10,000 for activity deliver.
yeah. No, I did 2 months of OBGYN in at medical school, and helped with who knows, maybe a dozen, 2 dozen babies in the 2 months. But of course, they're protective, and they don't want you to do too much as a student because you don't know anything anyway. So
Right, right, just to catch.
did a lot of IVs and got a lot of labs, and it was an enjoyable thing. But it wasn't for me. But I mean, I can't. I never saw anybody who loved medicine more than my father, and so he carved the right niche. But 10,000 babies, and when I talk about the book, it's redemption. I mean, you
Yeah.
can't bring back his parents who were killed in Auschwitz. My mom's grandfather, a rabbi, also killed at Auschwitz. My dad's father, as I said, was a dentist. He worked on a Red Cross in World War One, and unbelievable. And then became a dentist and gave away freebies, free exams to the less fortunate in my dad's community. He was threats to society, but nevertheless, doesn't matter. You're a Jew, you're screwed. So off they went. They were carted away and killed, and that was hard on my dad too, because it took him months to find out what had actually happened to his parents. A miracle that he ran into somebody who was an eyewitness to what actually happened to them in Auschwitz, good or bad, the sad.
Right, right.
But I think he was just determined to, after he got past all that, and that's what he did, bring back life so 10,000 babies is a nice number. I mean, it's a lot of babies. It's a lot of deliveries.
Absolutely.
Have over it. So mm, I guess that's all he wanted to do. And he took great pride in what he did too. So everything.
Um, absolutely. So here's the thing. You mentioned with your dad that with all that he's been through, he did not experience or seem to experience burnout, but you've been experienced burnout. What is it that you have been doing to prevent burnout right now? And when you were in the deep, 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 deep belly of it, what did it look like for you?
Just getting up, like my partner used to say, getting up and wondering how I was going to get through my day. That when he was part of it. But I fought it off. Just little games you play with yourself, with your head, like, oh, it's lunchtime, yay, or I get a break, I'm caught up. I can sneak into the doctor's lounge and go to coffee and watch a little TV for a few minutes. Just those little
Mhm.
wins, those little victories that would help you get through it. Payday was always nice back then. I mean, things have changed a lot, but it helps getting a nice paycheck and paying down the mortgage and putting away to retirement. Money was not a high motivator, but money for we need to make money. We need to make a living, and we don't go to medical school to be poor and to be destitute when we retire. So having a great wife, a supportive wife, really helped. Having great friends. And
Mhm.
at the time we were sharing Lion season tickets, Piston season tickets. We did limo rides. We did hot tub parties. We did a lot local live music. We had a lot of fun on the time that we were off. We blew off a lot of steam and gym time. I highly recommend.
Mhm.
And don't lose your sense of fitness. Don't. That I think it's so important. I've been doing that. I've been a gym rat for 40 years. That's helped.
Mhm.
And then focus on when you're out of the hospital. Focus on not on medicine. So I mean, didn't do a lot of conversations with many physicians because so many, all they want to talk about was science and medicine. I'm like, dude, hey, let's talk about sports and music or the museum or something else. I mean,
Mhm.
even the weather. I'm kidding. Just kidding. But it's those little things. Yeah.
Yeah.
And eventually, I was full time with call and weekends for 11 years. And that
Mhm.
doesn't include residency and fellowship and even med school. And we don't even talk about undergrad. 12 years undergrad, 4 years medical. This is another thing. 4 years of this, 4 years of that, neurointerventional. That's a lot of sweat.
Yeah.
Yes, we use a semester of organic chemistry. That's sweat. I mean, so,
Mhm.
but so after 11 years and all the other, then I said, I want to go part time. Otherwise, I'm going to just I'm going to lose my mind.
Okay.
Worked out it worked. Yeah, I got down to, I don't know, 10 days a month. And then it bumped up. Then it was 8 days a month with much less pay. But I loved the job.
Yeah. Yeah.
That kind of fell through. And then I went to a really, really hard job, which was I have 60% of full time, but it was full time call. And the call was brutal. The hours were brutal. They had these crazy 12-hour shifts. I mean, I'm blaming the wrong person about 12 hours.
You're not. No, you're not. I empathize. But
10 hours of looking at X-ray, CT, ultrasound, and reading up to 200 cases in a day. It's a long day. I cheated. Your eyes.
yeah, no matter how you look at it, it's long. And it's not long. It's long, and I don't think that that's a way that someone is going to be able to last. And it's definitely.
No, no, not at all. So that was 6 months, 6 months or 9 months. I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't have said, I'm back to this. There's that young. Yeah, no partnership tracks, this and that. So I found a job that was closer to my home. This is Rhode Island now, and it was lower key. The
Mhm.
nice short commute. And I liked the people there, and I could have stayed there for a while. But guess who took over the practice? The group that I had just worked for before. They 6 months later, not even they took over the practice, and pretty much, and they didn't want to keep me because I left them. Even though I left on good terms, I said, my blood pressure's up and my stress level's up, and I'm just doing more than I thought I bargained for. And the chief says, "Well, what's your blood pressure?" And I said, "It's high enough," all this and that. And so they took over the practice. So they they handpicked their people, mostly
Mhm.
partners that were there, and it was bye bye. I wasn't the only one, and they did me a favor too because well, not really, because I would have worked there for indefinitely. Maybe I'd still be there, part time, 2 3 days.
Mhm.
It was a nice little mix. But then my mom died that year, so a month later. So the timing was good for that. I had some year to take care of my mom's affairs, and then I decided, screw it, I'm going to retire now, and I did. But then I came back to it, and you try to get out, but the important actual
Another
yeah,
guy.
12. And I love The Sopranos. I love all that Goodfellas and Casino. That's another thing. Great movies. We used to watch The Sopranos and 6 Feet
Mhm.
Under and all these great all these great series and TV shows.
Yeah.
Sucking Toys Pizza with The Sopranos and Kill with the Wife. So there's ways you can't focus just on work all the time. You gotta
Mhm.
focus on things that make you happy, that give you pleasure. And you're burnt out of your work. You're burnt out of what you're doing. Then do something else. Don't complain. Don't go protesting at NYU against me because what do I have to do with Gaza and Israel? Nothing. I mean, what do you have to do with nothing? So don't do something more constructive because you're wasting time. You're wasting my time. You're wasting other people's time, especially when things get violent. And look,
Mhm.
go to your congressman. Go to the congressman in Gaza. Go see if you get some normalcy here. I mean, these are interesting times, but they're
Mhm.
scary. And it's just not. And that October 7th thing, my slippery slope of fighting anti-Semitism went from year to year because
Mhm.
now all of a sudden we've got more enemies, people that are chiming in, people coming out of the woodwork or the out of the blocks onto the ground, and it's really sad. And
Okay.
education is the thing, and that's where education is the thing. So,
I do have a question pertaining. This is my question that I ask all guests. I call it my fun question.
got
It's the imagination question. So, if you weren't a doctor doing anything in neuroradiology or any type of medical thing, and you weren't an author, weren't a Tony Soprano,
I lost a lot of weight with my last illness, so I used to work for,
or didn't get the Tony
that's
Soprano,
not that's gone away.
yeah, or wasn't a gym rat, if you weren't, let me see. I'm listening to everything else that you put out there. But what would you be if you weren't any of those? You are,
Also mentioned concerts too, like concerts.
yes, yeah. I would do it. I and the and driving the limousine. I allowed that in. But what would you be?
Yeah, I mean, 30 concerts a year. I played classical piano for 8 years as a kid, which is a nice privilege, which I had to give it up for a while, and I never really went back to it, unfortunately. I got a beautiful Korg, 88 key Korg in the other room that's collecting dust. But I was pretty good back then, and if I had stuck with it, I suppose I could have played with a rock and roll band. Not the Rolling.
Ah, we gotta play classic pianist, but you're like
Oh,
Baroque.
I was more into now. As soon as I had a choice, I bought Moody Blues and Beatles and Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin and Rush and multiple. I have all the sheet music. But then most of these guys I see out there that play, and I even talk about the band, just play with a local band on the weekends.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sounds
I'm
fun.
a colleague that does that.
They come by here, they don't even read music. I'm like, what the hell? And they're good, and they know every song by given, like the Rolling
Mhm.
Stones or Aerosmith. They know every song, and so anyway, that was one kind of a fantasy, and
But isn't that something that can still be done?
it could still be done. Yeah, that's the other thing. My fingers, God bless, they still work. I
Yeah.
just saw Herbie Hancock a couple weeks ago. The guy's 84. He's got the hands of a 30-year-old. And I was in second row, and I was so impressed. What a cool guy he was. And I've been a fan of his for 40 years. And not that, I mean, nobody plays like that, but it's fantastic to see somebody like that. The other thing would be run a mutual fund for Fidelity. That would be a kind of a cool, back if it was in the 90s when we had the big bull market, and you're established, you actually know what you're doing. That would have been fun to run a mutual fund, but that's a lot of ladder climbing too.
Mhm.
Get your MBA, I suppose, and whatever other degree, and then you've got to show up to work every day, jam high, can't be late. No Bloody Marys here. Maybe after work on a Friday, everybody goes out for happy hour.
That'd be a little bit of juxtaposition between your musician life and then the other one.
Yeah,
So which one are you gonna go after?
uh, as a real way to make a living. Run a mutual fund.
No, no, this is not making a living. This is just
Just having fun. I guess being a keyboardist and
I love it.
well, I love these guys the way they play, and they play the same song probably 500 times a year, but they never get tired of it. Even the professionals, Peter Frampton and Do You Feel Like We Do? I mean, how many times has he played that in his life? He's finally in the Hall of Fame. I mean, a lot of these guys, the Rolling Stones, of course, Start Me Up, and there's Mama Kin with the Aerosmith. I mean, I've seen all these bands. I know what they start with, and sometimes their whole set list, and that's got to cause burnout when they have the same set list, whole tour, and they don't switch it up. But different bands do switch it up, like Phish, Zed, and whoever else. But no, I think that would have been a lot of fun, especially if there's a wide repertoire of things to play. Because I do like jazz, like I said, the Herbie Hancock, I love fusion, Jeff Beck, rest in peace. But I like Bowie and Elton John and a whole series. Elton John is a fantastic keyboardist too. I mean, he's just recently retired. So many Keith Emerson, who killed himself because he couldn't play keyboards anymore. From Emerson, Lake and Palmer, very sad. Another keyboard hero, a guy that I could never emulate to play like. The guy was just unbelievable. Plus, piano, about two hands going at once with two different melodies and our 10 keyboards deep. I mean, but I'd be happy with the one, and there's no, and but
So we can find you at the local establishments.
local show on the weekends, Friday or Saturday night. Yeah, it's a lot of trouble, and Korg is heavy. It's a heavy thing to carry around, but at least it's not a drum set. It's just a heavy board and a stand and a seat and a couple of speakers, so it's not as bad as when we got setting up the drums or whatever else. It's brutal. So
I love it.
it's fun. So that's my proxy. That's my time off, is go let somebody else do the work, and I'll go sit and have a beer and enjoy their music. And one day I might go back to it. I don't know. To play in a band and be schlepping all that stuff around. I don't know. I need
The
an,
good thing about it's my fantasy. It's a fantasy land. So you have every time you go whenever you need to, whenever you want to, and it's always packed and it's always sold out because it's fantasy land.
yeah, I love it.
And the elevator equipment does not weigh anything.
I know, right? I have a very good friend. He's a dentist. He just had his birthday too, like I did. We're both 62 now. We've been friends since third grade, and he's still practicing dentistry part time. He loves the guitar. He took classical piano with me, but he veered off to guitar, and he's pretty good. He likes to play yacht rock and mellow rock, and he's also in the Toby Keith cover. So he's doing a little country and whatever else. And he's up in North Shore, Massachusetts, and he's still going strong on the weekends playing the band. And he has a nice voice too. So in that, he's more multifaceted than I am, I suppose. But he's living the dream. That's all he talks about is music. So good for him. Another
I
great
love it.
that was another thing. Being surrounded by good friends in high school, college,
Mhm.
that helps you with your motivation. That helps you stay on the path when down or otherwise. Whether it was work radiology or things with the book, uh,
Mhm.
it's difficult. So, but it's nice having good friends that are smart and give it
Supporting.
and they listen. That's the other thing, listening.
Good, good. Alrighty. Well, talking about listening, there are many people who were watching or listening to this wonderful conversation. They want to find out more about you, find out more about the book. Where can they find and or buy the book? Let them know where can they do this.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the opportunity. May I show the book?
Absolutely.
So it's called. We shall get this right.
Neuroradiologist.
The true
Mhm.
story of a Hungarian Jewish man's fight for freedom. Wonderful book cover. The guy was Croatian that did it, so he had being from Eastern Europe, he had a vested interest in
Mhm.
with the project and very reasonable. The four awards. I'm not the type of guy to slap myself in the back or sit on my laurels. I did wonderful when I heard the news. It does mean that our work is important, quality, and people in the know recognize that. So that's a big thing to me. And also, but if it doesn't help, if my book and what I'm doing doesn't help curtail anti-Semitism and racism, then it doesn't mean a thing. I mean, you can
Mhm.
have 8 awards or 10 awards. It doesn't matter if it's not helping me with accomplishing my goal, which I guess in the back of my head was that is this. I want people to be aware of this process. Not a real enemy. So you can find me. I'm on Facebook, like you, Meta, they call it now, X or Twitter. I'm on Instagram and I'm on LinkedIn. So you can find me as Rob Wolf on Facebook or Robert G. Wolf, MD. If you Google Robert J. Wolf, MD, you'll find me. So, or if you Google Not a Real Enemy, you'll find me. I mean, I have a great team that's helped me with the technology part of it. And so
Mhm.
I top of the list. Besides the four awards, I'm doing my second book signing at the U.S. Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. a couple weeks. So I'm so excited about that. And that's the pinnacle of what we do. It's partnership, and it's such an honor. And I haven't even appreciated that I've already been there once, let alone going back twice. Invited to Houston, going to the Long Island Holocaust Museum next year, and there's a million others to still let know. I don't have any secretaries or assistants to help me get the word out, so I do it all myself.
Mhm.
On those social media, on those sites, I also have a website, robertjwolfmd.com.
Mhm.
Talks more about the wars, and I got a lot of content in it. Got a YouTube channel that probably has at least 30 videos, podcasts, and I've done 20 TV and radio interviews about the book. And the book can be purchased on Amazon. We also are proud to say that the audiobook is now out. So you can get the audiobook as well, the ebook or hard copy, hardback. Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Walmart, Tufts University. That's my alma mater. So it's there. And now at four Holocaust museums, the one in DC, Illinois, which we did a great presentation there last year. Michigan, the Zeckelman. I did a presentation a couple months ago near there. But I would love to do something there. A beautiful museum, great people there too. And then Long Island. So the book is for sale a lot of places. If you Google me, Robert J. Wolf, MD, you Google Not a Real Enemy, you'll find Amazon's the easiest. But if you're in the neighborhood at Tufts, knock on the door.
Knock on the door.
Or say hi if you're in the DC area. It's Columbus Day and the Sunday and Monday of Columbus Day weekend.
Oh, so it literally is a few weeks from now.
Not even, yeah. So
Yeah, it's not even
yeah, a week from Sunday and Mondays.
1 week from now. To those of you guys, if you're in the area and come by and stop by, say hello to get to see the author in real life.
Talk about all kinds of things. It doesn't have to be about genocide and anti-Semitism, but that's part of it.
Yeah.
Wonderful people, great experience. I know we're probably running out of time. I could do that every day, talking with kids about the Holocaust, talking about their families, parents, from all over the country, all over the world. How cool is that? So that's the mothership, and hopefully I get a lot more like that. I mean, I don't, you don't want to string it along too far, but well received, and it's just that's a heartwarming experience. That's the reason I'm doing it. It's just people that spread the word and are educated and show that kind of interest. It's very gratifying.
Very deaf. So we have some, Kathy Ramos, one of our esteemed nurses, we're in Houston. She said this was very inspiring. And she said, thank you so much for sharing. And with that, Dr. Robert J. Wolf, thank you so much for sharing this wonderful story with us, for sharing your book, for sharing the legacy, and for doing the work that you do. With that, today we are going to end this wonderful conversation. However, I know most of you guys, I know how it is. And I know what you're saying. Oh my gosh, Dr. Beckford, I got just a little glimpse of this, and this sounded so interesting. Will I be able to catch this entire episode? And I say yes. You'll be able to catch it on our Your Caring Docs website. That's URCARINGDOCS.com. Select podcast, and you'll see Dr. Wolf. Hence, you download that episode, send it to 10 of your friends so that they can be as enlightened and have that great information. Now, for those of us women, if you're out there and ready and you are suffering from burnout, we talked about that a lot. Here, we do have a program here at Your Caring Doc. It's called our Thrive program, that is here to help you to move from the overwhelm, from the burnout that steals your joy, it steals your energy, steals your ability to feel or even feel like you're having any meaning in life. We help to restore all of that through through our Thrive program. So come and contact us, yourcaringdocs.com/thrive, yourcaringdocs.com/thrive. I'd love to be able to help you in our wonderful coaching program. All righty. Well, with that, we're going to end today's wonderful conversation. Thank you so much, Dr. Wolf, for stopping by.
Thank you for having me. Much appreciated.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Tam.
My pleasure. My pleasure. All righty, everyone. You have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.